The next problem area is interim interest. Interim interest. Interim interest. I doubt that you'll be able to read that on the video, but interim interest is what we're talking about. Let me talk to you a little bit about interim interest. I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but on our first scenario earlier, we were closing on February 22nd. When you're closing on February 22nd, regardless of when you're closing, your next payment, your first mortgage payment, is not going to be March 1st. It's actually going to be April 1st, okay? Mortgage interest is often paid in what we refer to as arrears. Mortgage interest is paid in arrears. In other words, when you make that first mortgage payment right there, it includes the interest that accrued during the month of March. And if you'd ever like to try this out, try it out sometimes. If you call for a loan payoff today, what is today is the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, whatever it is. Okay, so let's say you call for a loan payment payoff early in the month, and then you don't pay it off, and then you say, well, daggone it, now it's the 18th. I wonder what it is on the 18th. If you call and ask for your loan payoff on the 18th, it's actually more than it was earlier in the month, unless you've made a payment since that time. Okay? Why? Because every day you have the bank's money, interest is accruing. So what happens is, when you make your first payment, it's going to be not the month following your closing, but the month after that. And what it's setting up is your next 360 payments, assuming that this is a 30-year loan, you're going to make the payment on the first day of the month, picking up the interest that accrued in the previous month. So the question becomes, well, when did they collect this interest right here? There's your interim interest right there. And interim interest is collected at closing. As a matter of fact, if you've ever heard anyone say, close near the end of the month, you'll have to bring less money to closing. What they're basically saying is if you close late in the month, there's less interim interest that you have to pay. Okay? So interim interest is collected on the buyer's loan for the last days of the month, including the closing day. Interim interest is paid for the period at the end of the month that you closed. It's on the buyer's loan, and it includes the day of closing. All of those points are going to be important here in just a moment. Let me ask you this question. Who do you think should pay, who do you think should be debited the interim interest at closing? The buyer, because it's the buyer's loan. This is on the buyer's loan. Okay? So it'll be the buyer who's going to be paid for it. So now there's a couple of math concepts that you need to be familiar with. Here's some good news for you. The first one you already know. The second one's not hard. Do you remember the interest formula? Do you remember the interest formula that we talked about last week? Let me remind you of the way that I calculated that. The formula for simple annual interest, we used the T-bar and we said something like this. Annual interest equals principal times rate. Do you remember that? All right, so here it comes. The borrower is getting a $120,000 loan. $120,000 loan at 6% interest. And basically what I want you to tell me is how much interim interest he's going to pay at closing. Let's take what we know and plug things in and hope something good happens. What's the principal of his new loan? $120,000. What's his interest rate? 6%. So the annual interest would be $120,000 times 6% would be $7,200. Now listen closely. Last week, when we were trying to do the balance after monthly payment, we were trying to figure out how much interest accrues over the course of a month. But today, I'm trying to figure out interim interest. And when we do our prorations, interest is always prorated on a calendar month basis, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to break it down per day and then figure out how many days the buyer is responsible for. So in this case, I need to divide 7,200 by what?
360.
Let's divide 7,200 by 360, and you will see that the interim interest is $20 per day. I want you to pause for just a second right there. I want you to think back to your class on Friday, and then I want you to smile, because you just did something that's actually complicated. That is the interest formula. Last week we were looking for monthly, today we're looking for daily. The only difference is we divide by 360 instead of 12. Do you feel okay about that? Do you remember on Friday I told you that you were going to use that interest formula multiple times over the next couple of lessons? This is what I was referring to. You with me so far? Now you want me to tell you what you're going to miss? Let me just go ahead and predict where you're going to mess up. Because if I challenge you on it, maybe you will make it important to always remember this. The number of days of interim interest. The number of days. This is the most missed part of this problem right here. I'm going to give you a formula. That formula is 30 because there are 30 days in the month minus the day of closing, which was the 22nd, but we're not finished yet, plus 1, the day of closing. 30 minus 22 plus 1 is how many days? 9 days. And how much was it per day? $20 per day times 9 days, $180 of interim interest. And that's going to be a what? Buyer debit. Buyer debit. Did everybody check my math on that? $20 per day times 9 days equals 180. Danielle, why are you making that face?
When is that first payment due? April 1st?
The first payment is due April 1st, yes.
What they need. We need to pay, oh, that April 1st payment is going to be there.
Correct.
I got it.
Yes, yes. Regardless of how we word this, regardless of how we word this on the exam, this, I promise you, is the way you always do it, okay? We may say through the end of the month, we may say to their next payment or something like that, but this is the way you always solve for interim interest if you would like to get it correct.
So arrears means paying ahead.
No, arrears means paying in reverse. When you make the April payment, you're paying March's interest.
And it will be included in your first payment.
Correct.
So those arrears.
Yes. The March interest will be in your payment. And what this does is it allows every payment to be the same. And do you remember from Friday? Now, the amount that goes to principal and interest is different every month, but at least every one of the 360 payments is the same. See, if they picked up this interest right here on that payment right there, it would be different than the rest of them. So they just simply say, bring that interest right there to closing. And I said, I'm going to predict where you're going to struggle on the exam. It's that darn plus 1 right there that gets everybody.
Why do you put?
Well, count it on your little fingers and toes if you have to. Think about this. How many days are there at the end of the month? 30 minus 22, there's 8, right? Plus the day of closing. Watch this. 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. How many is that? 9. So if you counted on your fingers and toes every time, you would get it correct. The key here is that it includes the day of closing. Now look me closely in the eyes right here, okay? I promise you, this is the only time that you will use the plus 1 is when it comes to interim interest, okay? You can cut the tape off if you want to.